Jake lived a quiet life on the edge of the city. He worked as a mechanic and liked to fix old machines. He didn't talk to people much. His workshop was full of tools, wires, and broken things he planned to fix one day. One night, while scrolling through an online auction site, something caught his eye. Smart Pet Crate AI Companion, low price, no returns. It had no photo, just a gray box and the words, "Feels real." "Acts real, good for lonely people," Jake chuckled. "What kind of ad is this?" he said to himself. But the price was so low, cheaper than a cleaning bot. And he was curious. He clicked buy now. The crate arrived 2 days later. It was large. Bigger than he expected. Metal, dusty, with strange marks burned into its side. Looks like it's been through a war. Jake muttered. He dragged it into his garage. The crate was cold. And then it moved. Not the crate itself, but something inside. Jake froze. There was a soft thump, like someone had shifted or rolled over. "This isn't a robot," he said, confused. Robots didn't breathe. But he could hear it now, a soft, shaky breath. Heart pounding, Jake grabbed his cutter and carefully opened. Crate. With a hiss of air, the door popped open, and inside was a girl. She was curled up in a ball, barely clothed, wearing a torn fabric sheet. Chains were around her ankles and wrists. Her skin was pale blue. Her ears were pointed. Her eyes, huge and glowing, blinked slowly as the light touched her face. Jake stared in shock. "What the hell?" The girl flinched and backed into the corner of the crate. She didn't speak, just stared at him like a scared animal. Jake raised his hand slowly. Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you." She didn't move. He crouched down and tried again. "Can you talk?" Silence. He looked closer. There was a small metal collar around her neck with strange writing, and her skin. It shimmered faintly under the light. Not human. She wasn't a robot. She was alive. Jake didn't know what to do. He got a blanket, wrapped her in it, and helped her out of the crate. She was shaking, thin, cold. He let her inside his workshop and gave her water. She drank it like she hadn't had any in days. Still, she didn't speak. He gently asked, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" No answer, just wide eyes. Then suddenly she moved forward and grabbed his hand. Jake froze. Her voice was soft, cracked, barely a whisper. "Please, don't send me back. They'll kill me." Jake's heart dropped. He looked at her again, not just as something strange or alien, but as someone who had been trapped. "Don't worry," he said quietly. "You're safe now." Later that night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept looking over at the girl, who sat curled up on his workbench under a blanket. He checked the crate again. There was no ID number, no brand, no instruction manual. Nothing that explained what she was, only one label on the side. Lot #A17, unsellable units. Jake stared at those words for a long time. Unsellable? What did that mean? He sat down beside her again. She watched him with tired eyes. "I don't even know your name," Jake said softly. The girl blinked. Slowly, she pointed at her collar. He leaned in and tried to read the alien letters. His translator device buzzed and gave a rough translation. Leary, biomodel, unknown, purpose, companion, Leary. He repeated, "Is that your name?" She gave a tiny nod. Jake smiled a little. "Okay, Leary, I'm Jake." She looked at him for a moment longer, and then did something strange. She bowed her head and whispered, "Master." Jake flinched. No. "I'm not your master. You don't belong to anyone, okay?" But Leary didn't seem to understand. She just stayed quiet, like she was waiting for orders. Jake felt a knot in his chest. What kind of place had she come from? Who had locked her in that crate? Why did they call her a pet? He didn't know. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a strange package from the internet. This was something deeply wrong. Asterisk, and now she was his responsibility. Asterisk, the next morning, Jake found her standing in the same place he left her. She hadn't moved. She hadn't slept. She was still wrapped in the blanket, still barefoot, still silent. "Leary?" he asked gently. She looked up at him like a robot waiting for commands. Jake frowned. "Why didn't you lie down?" She said nothing. He pointed to the couch. "That's a bed. You can rest there." Leary hesitated, then slowly walked over and sat on the floor beside it. Jake blinked. No, not the floor, on the couch." She looked up confused. "I cannot. That is for masters." Jake's chest tightened. He walked over and sat on the floor beside her. "I'm not your master, Leary. I don't own you." She tilted her head. "Then, what am I?" Jake stared at her. He didn't have an answer. She wasn't a pet. She wasn't a robot. She was a living, breathing girl who had been taught to obey like a machine. He whispered, "You're free." Leary frowned. "Free to serve? No. Free to be yourself." She looked down, eyes blank. The word self meant nothing to her. Jake made breakfast. He placed a warm plate in front of her, eggs and toast. Simple. Leary didn't touch it. "Eat." Jake said, "Is it mine?" She asked, voice uncertain. "Yes," he smiled. "All yours." She stared at it like it was gold. Then slowly, carefully, she picked up a piece of toast and took a bite. Her hands trembled. After a few bites, she stopped and whispered, "No shock." Jake looked at her. "Shock?" She pointed to her collar. "No pain. Food? No punishment?" Jake's eyes narrowed. "They punished you for eating?" Leary nodded. "Without order, yes. Bad pet eats without command." Jake felt his stomach twist. "You were never a pet." She said nothing. She just kept eating slowly, like every bite might still hurt. Later, Jake tried to show her around his workshop. "This is where I fix machines," he explained. "You can look, touch anything. Don't be scared." Leary followed him like a shadow. He gave her a soft towel and showed her the bathroom. "You can bathe here," he said. She nodded but didn't move. "Do you need help?" She shook her head. Jake left the room to give her privacy, but he stayed close just in case. Minutes passed. Then he heard water. And soft sobs. She wasn't just washing. She was crying. Jake waited. When she came out, her hair was damp, her skin clean, and her eyes red. But she looked different, lighter, like a layer of pain had washed away. That night, Jake brought out a pillow and a blanket. "You can sleep on the couch," he said. She walked over and laid down on the floor again. Jake sighed. "Why?" she whispered. "I was sold as broken. I'm not allowed comfort." Jake sat beside her, this time placing the blanket under her body himself. "Then whoever said that was wrong." Leary looked up at him. "You don't fear me?" Jake smiled gently. "Why would I?" She blinked slowly. "Because I'm not human." He shrugged. "Neither's my toaster. But I don't fear that either." Leary stared for a long time, and then gave the tiniest smile. Jake saw it. That one little smile. It wasn't just her lips, it was in her eyes, too. Like a child who had never been told she was allowed to feel joy. Just as Jake was about to turn off the light, Leary sat up suddenly. "Jake," she said. It was the first time she said his name. He turned to her, surprised. "Yes?" she whispered. "If I'm free, why am I still scared?" Jake looked at her for a long moment. "Because real freedom isn't just about open doors," he said. "It's about healing from the chains that used to hold you." Leary blinked, like she was trying to understand a language she never knew existed. That night, she slept on the couch. Not the floor. And Jake, for the first time in a long time, didn't feel alone. Ending suspense. In the morning, Jake checked the collar around her neck again, hoping to remove it. But when he scanned it, his device glitched. And showed a strange message. "Property of Sector 9, Class X Intelligence. Do not release." Jake's heart pounded. "What the hell are you really, Leary?" The sound woke him first. It wasn't loud, but strange. Whirr. Click, tap, tap. Jake opened his eyes and looked at the clock. 3:17 a.m. The workshop lights were on. He got up, barefoot, and walked toward the noise. What he saw made him freeze in the doorway. Leary was sitting at his workbench, surrounded by tools. Sparks flew from a half-fixed circuit board. She held a soldering pen in one hand, a data chip in the other, and her glowing fingers moved with quiet skill. She didn't look up. She didn't notice him. She was working like she had done this 1,000 times before. Jake slowly stepped forward. "Leary, what are you doing?" She turned her head sharply, then stood like she was in trouble. I'm sorry. I heard the broken board humming. It was dangerous. I fixed it." Jake walked closer, eyes on the board. It wasn't just fixed, it was upgraded. The cheap wiring he had used was replaced by a new glowing circuit he'd never seen before. "You did this?" he asked. Leary nodded. Jake sat down, stunned. "No smart pet can do this." She stayed quiet. Jake looked at her again. Really looked. Her hands were not just soft, they had microtools built into her fingertips. Her eyes flickered, like scanners. Her brain wasn't simple, it was sharp, fast, aware. "Where did you learn this?" Her voice was small. "I don't know. It just comes." The next morning, Jake gave her a tablet and pointed to it. "Try using this." She tapped the screen once. The tablet lit up. A second tap, she opened a map. A third, she hacked into the house's Wi-Fi system. Jake's mouth fell open. I'm sorry," Leary said quickly. "Did I break it?" "No. You just rerouted the signal around the firewall." Leary tilted her head. "Is that bad?" Jake laughed nervously. "No, it's something I can't even do." He ran a test on her collar. Again, it blocked him. Only this time, his scanner returned a strange code. Biosentient level 5. System locked. Memory Aristeris. Kirk looked at her. "You're not a pet, Leary. You're something else." She looked confused. "I was built to serve." "Maybe," Jake said slowly, "but not as a toy." Later that day, Jake went into town to get supplies. He told Leary to rest. When he returned 2 hours later, he found his entire garage reorganized. The broken tools were cleaned. Parts were sorted, even the old power grid he gave up on. Leary fixed it. She stood waiting by the door, head lowered. "Was I not supposed to touch?" Jake just blinked. Wow. "No, you did amazing." She smiled shyly. "Then, I did well?" Jake nodded slowly. "You did more than well." That night, Jake sat alone and pulled out an old military database chip he had hidden for years. He typed in the caller's code, Lotta 17, Sector 9.1 match. Just one. Long forgotten project. Project Companion X status. Terminated. Reason. Subject too self-aware. Failed pet behavior training. Memory sealed. Disposition. Sold to civilian networks. As scrap, Jake's hand shook. They had made her to be more than a servant, but when she became more, they shut her down. And sold her, like junk. The next morning, Jake walked outside and found Leary sitting quietly in the sun. She looked peaceful, like she was learning what calm felt like. He sat beside her. "Leary," he said gently, "do you ever feel like there's more in your head? Like something's locked away?" She didn't answer at first. Then she whispered, "Sometimes I dream of stars, of voices, of people who called me leader, but when I wake, it's gone." Jake stared at her. "Leader?" This wasn't just a helper model. This wasn't just some intelligent pet. She was someone they had tried to erase, ending suspense. That night, a strange sound came from outside. Jake looked through his security cams. A drone hovered above the garage. Red lights blinked under its belly. A voice spoke through static. "Return subject LIRI9, Final warning. Asset recovery in progress. Jake's blood turned cold. They were coming. Asterisk. The night was too quiet. Too still. Jake sat in his dark workshop, staring at the blinking screen. The message from the drone replayed in his mind like a drumbeat. Return subject LIRI-9. Final warning. Asset recovery in progress. He looked at Leary. She was asleep on the couch, curled up with a pillow clutched in her arms like a child. Her breathing was soft, peaceful, but outside. Someone was watching. He walked to the window and pulled the curtain slightly. The drone was gone now, but it would be back. The next morning, Jake didn't tell Leary what happened. Not yet. Instead, he made breakfast like usual. She was smiling more now, still quiet, still unsure. But there was warmth in her eyes that wasn't there before. She pointed to the toast. Is this the same one I liked yesterday? Jake smiled. Yeah, I made it again for you. She beamed like a child given a birthday gift. He wanted to freeze that moment. Keep her safe in that smile forever. But he couldn't. Not when they were coming. When Leary went to shower, Jake returned to the old military data chip. This time, he dug deeper. He bypassed old encryption, line by line, code after code, until Project Companion X classified, designed by Sector 9 Bioengineering Division. Purpose: Leadership Clone Trial, Hybrid Intelligence. Notes: Subject LIRI-9 showed emotional depth, tactical instincts, and unprogrammed empathy. Final notes: Subject deemed too human. Memory sealed. Prototype sold as disposal item. Jake leaned back in his chair, heart pounding. She wasn't just a smart assistant. She was a prototype leader designed to feel, think, care, and command. They wanted control, not a soul. When she started acting more human than machine, they labeled her broken and threw her away. Later that day, Jake took Leary to a nearby field just outside the city. He wanted her away from cameras, away from watchers. They sat on the grass under a silver tree. Do you remember anything before the crate? He asked carefully. Leary looked down at her hands. Sometimes I hear voices when I close my eyes, she said softly. Not cruel ones, kind, like a teacher or a father. Jake nodded slowly. And what do they say? She hesitated. They say, you are more. You are not their tool. You were born to lead, not follow. Her fingers trembled. Why does that voice scare me? Jake gently touched her shoulder. Because someone tried to erase it. That evening, Leary sat at the workbench again. But this time, she didn't fix anything. She stared at the blank wall. I don't understand what she said. Barely above a whisper, Jake walked over and placed the old military chip beside her. I think you were made to be a leader. Leary looked at him confused. He showed her the decrypted file. Her eyes scanned the data faster than Jake expected. Her glowing pupils adjusted, her expression slowly changing from confusion to pain to fear. I was a project? Jake nodded. Yes, she whispered. They never wanted me to live. Just to function. Jake's voice was steady. And when you started to feel, they locked your memories. Leary turned away, eyes wet. I don't want to be a weapon, Jake. I want to be a me. Jake took her hand. Then let's find out who that is. Together. Ending suspense. Just then, a low buzz filled the air. Jake turned to the door. Leary stood, her eyes narrowing. Something outside was humming. Jake grabbed his scanner signals. We're bouncing off the building. A cloaked ship. Landing nearby. Jake looked at her. Leary, they're here. Leary's voice was calm now. No fear, just fire. Then let's make them regret finding me. Asterisk, the ground shook, just a little. Enough to make Jake's coffee cup tremble on the workbench. He and Leary stared at each other. The sound was not thunder. It was a ship. Landing, quiet, heavy, hidden behind a stealth field. Jake ran to his scanner. It's them. They've landed just 2 clicks from here. Leary stood calmly, her expression unreadable. No fear this time, only focus. They're not going to talk, are they? Jake asked. Leary shook her head. They never do. They only take. Jake moved fast. He pulled open a hidden panel in the garage floor. Inside was a small weapons locker. Old tech, mostly junk, but enough for defense. Take this, he said, handing her a plasma baton. Leary stared at it. I don't need it. She lifted her hand, and the lights around them flickered. Electricity danced at her fingertips. Jake blinked. Okay, remind me never to make you angry. They didn't have to wait long. A sudden pulse cut through the Era disruptor blast, short range. All electronics in the house died instantly. Lights out, alarms off, comes dead. Jake cursed. They fried us. Leary turned toward the door. We have 1 minute. Jake grabbed a pulse rifle. Then let's make it count. The attackers didn't knock. They blew the door off its hinges. 2 tall figures stepped inside, black armor, silver masks, glowing red visors. Behind them, a third drone hovered. Scanning, target locked. LIRI-9, return the subject, one of them said in a flat, robotic voice. You have no rights to classified property. Jake stepped forward. She's not property. Interference will result in termination. Jake raised his rifle. Try me. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Leary moved first. In a blur, she was between them. No weapon. Just her hands. Energy. She touched one soldier's chest, and his armor lit up like fireworks. The suit exploded, sending him flying backward through the wall. The other tried to shoot, too late. Leary caught the blast. Mid her with her hand. It fizzled in her palm like a dying spark. Then she looked into the drone's scanner and spoke in a voice Jake had never heard before. A command voice, deep, ancient. Deactivate, protocol Alpha 12. The drone froze. Then shut down. Fell to the floor like dead metal. Jake stared, stunned. What did you just do? Leary stood still, her hand shaking slightly. It remembered me. Somewhere inside. I was its commander. Silence. Then from outside, clapping. A slow, mocking clap. A new figure stepped through the doorway. No armor. No weapon. Just a black coat and silver eyes. Well done. LIRI-9, he said. I see your instincts are coming back. Jake raised his weapon again. Who the hell are you? The man smiled coldly. The one who made her. Sector 9, class engineer. Leary's eyes narrowed. I remember your voice. You called me defective, the man nodded. Because you were, still are. Look at you pretending to be human. Jake stepped in front of her. She is human enough. The man tilted his head. Then let's see how human she stays. When I unlock her full memory. Ending suspense. He tossed a small orb toward them. LIR. I grabbed it, but her eyes suddenly flashed. She dropped to her knees. Frozen. Shaking. Jake shouted, Leary. The man smiled. Let's see what happens when the real LI-9 wakes up. Asterisk, her scream wasn't loud, but it shook the air. Jake had never heard a sound like it. Leary was on her knees, hands clutching her head. Her eyes glowed too bright, almost white. Sparks crackled around her fingers. The man in the black coat smiled. Calmly, she's unlocking, he said. Just like we planned long ago. Jake aimed his rifle at the man. Shut it off, whatever you did. Stop it, the man chuckled. It's not something I did. This was always inside her. A weapon wearing a child's face. Jake stepped closer to Leary. Leary, listen to me. You're not a weapon. You're not. What they say, fight it. Leary's body shook. Her breathing grew sharp. Light started pulsing from her skin, waves of energy building like a storm, and then silence. Leary slowly stood. The air around her shimmered like heat. Her voice was calm but not soft. System access complete. Memory lock bypassed. Original purpose restored. Jake's heart sank. No. But then she blinked, polite. In her eyes dimmed, and she looked straight at Jake. Not like a machine, like Leary. I remember. Everything, she whispered. Jake stepped closer. Are you okay? Leary touched her head. They trained me to lead armies, to crush enemies, to obey until I broke the rules. Jake asked softly, and now? She looked at her own hands. Now, I choose not to be what they made. The man in the coat growled. You were created for war, to bring order to chaos, not to play house with a human. Leary didn't move. I'm done obeying, she said. He raised a device in his hand, a signal trigger, but Leary simply raised her palm. A beam of pure light fired from her fingers, cutting through the air, and the device shattered before he could even press the button. The man's eyes widened. You shouldn't be able to do that. Leary stepped forward, her voice now like thunder wrapped in silk. You don't get to decide what I can be anymore. Suddenly, a loud boom shook the building. Another ship had landed. Bigger, faster. Dozens of soldiers poured out, black suits, glowing visors, armed to the teeth. Jake pulled Leary back. Too many. But she didn't run. She walked toward the door and whispered, let them come. Outside, the soldiers aimed and fired. Energy bolts flew, but they never reached her. The air bent around. Leary stopped time for each blast. She waved her arm. The shots froze in midair, then flew back, striking the shooters down. The ground cracked under her bare feet. The trees bent with the force of her power. Jake stood in awe. This wasn't the quiet, scared girl from the crate. This was something else. A storm in the shape of a girl. After just minutes, it was over. The soldiers were down, stunned. Not dead. The ship powered down. And Leary stood alone in the smoke, glowing like a fallen star. Jake walked to her, slowly. You okay? She nodded, her body trembling now that the energy had passed. I didn't kill them. I didn't want to, Jake smiled. That's how I know you're still you. Leary looked up at him with soft eyes. I thought remembering everything would make me a monster. Jake took her hand. It just made you stronger. Ending suspense. As they turned back toward the garage, Leary suddenly stopped. Her head tilted, like she heard something far away. Jake noticed too late. From the edge of the forest, a tall shadow appeared, not human, not armored. It was alien. And it bowed before Leary. A voice echoed without a mouth. Commander Leary 9, the old ones await your return. Your throne has not forgotten you. Jake whispered, Throne. Leary stepped back. In shock, I didn't remember that part. Asterisk, the forest was silent, not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind, where something ancient had just awakened. Jake stood still, his rifle hanging at his side. Before them, the alien being remained on one knee, bowing to Leary. Its body shimmered like liquid metal, and its voice echoed in the air, though it had no mouth. Commander L. Your empire rises again. We are yours to command. Jake looked at her, quietly. What empire? Leary didn't answer right away. Her face was pale. Her hands shook. I remember now, she whispered. Before I was sealed. Before they caged me, I led them, millions of them. They called me Empress, but I never wanted to rule. She turned toward Jake. I wanted peace. That's why they shut me down. The alien rose to its feet. We are ready to serve again. The stars await your word. Leary stared at the tall being. Then she looked back at Jake. His clothes were dirty. His hands were scraped from defending her. He had no power, no army, but he had stayed when she was weak, when she was scared, when she didn't even know her name. He had never walked away. I have power, Leary said softly, but Jake gave me freedom. The alien's head tilted. He is not one of us. He is primitive. Jake raised an eyebrow. Thanks. Leary stepped between them. Then maybe that's what we need, she said. Something simple, something honest. The alien paused, then slowly extended a hand. Your decision, Commander. Come with us and take your place as ruler. Or stay in exile with him. Leary looked at the stars above. So many voices in her head. So many memories. So much power. But then she looked at Jake. At his eyes. At his quiet strength. And she smiled. I'm not your commander anymore, she said to the alien. I'm just Leary. Jake thought the alien would attack, but instead, it slowly nodded. Its body dimmed. Then we will wait. Until you are ready. Then it vanished into the trees, fading like smoke, and Leary was left standing in silence. She turned to Jake. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. That night, back in the garage, Jake brought out a small box. Leary tilted her head. What's that? He opened it. Inside was the old collar. He had fixed it, but now it was different. No more serial number. No more property of Sector 9. Just one line, freshly engraved. Name, Leary. Status, free home, wherever she chooses. Jake handed it to her gently. I thought maybe you'd want to wear it, not as an order, but as a choice. Leary held it like it was made of gold. Her eyes shimmered. Then she smiled, placed it around her neck herself, and said, Then I choose this home. And I choose you. Ending scene. Weeks passed. The garage was quieter now, but brighter, cleaner. Leary worked beside Jake, fixing machines, laughing, learning how to live not as a weapon or a queen, but as a girl finally free. Sometimes ships passed above them in the sky. Sometimes strange voices whispered her old name. But she never answered. Not anymore, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't being controlled. She wasn't being claimed. That she was loved. And she wasn't a pet. She was a partner.